Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. I'm Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got Jameson Maxwell. And folks, this is the final edition of our Sooner Fans Visitor Guide to the SEC series. And we're ending it off with a banger. It's LSU. It's Baton Rouge. A game that all of us have been excited about, honestly, I think, since the SEC announcement was made. And one I'm excited to go to. I'm personally thrilled about it. Can't wait. But before we dive into it, I just want to say, if you're new passing through here, maybe an SEC fan, maybe an LSU fan, wanting to hear what we have to say, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We talk about more than just the Sooners as the season goes on, and with LSU as high ranked as they will be, we'll be talking about some games that they're playing in on the weekend spread throughout the season. So make sure to stick around for that. And hey, if we got any of this wrong, let us know in the comments. We'd love some good back and forth there. But anyways, enough of that. Jameson, LSU means a lot to OU fans, and we'll get into that. But for you, it's a little different. Because you were born in Louisiana, right?
Yeah, born in New Orleans. And so like a little bit of a different breed than the rest of Louisiana. It's a kind of part in its own. And I lived there only from the ages 1 to 4. And you like to joke around with me. I talk about it a lot. It's like an easy fun fact and icebreakers. But there is something like, deep down in me and every single LSU fan that I meet and all of our past history with them, Bobby, that makes me want to beat them so bad. Because I'll say it straight up. LSU fans, you guys are obnoxious. Simple as that. I will just go out and say it. I mean that isn't a compliment to y'all because you're passionate about your team, and I really respect that. But you are damn obnoxious, and I'm so excited to have this game.
I love it coming right out of the gate there. I'm excited about this one too. We'll talk a little bit more about the history as we go deeper into the podcast. But for me, when I think about LSU, I think about kind of that first real big football heartbreak in 2003 when the Tigers beat OU in the national championship, narrow game, all of that. And to me, it's just, you hear the horror stories, I think, from that Sugar Bowl, of a bunch of people yelling in cribs and, really rattling people. But
taking the Oklahoma license plates off of cars,
yeah,
good old stuff.
Right. So you've heard that. I will say when I ran into them at the Peach Bowl, they were a lot more chill. That might be a little bit quite a bit of a difference from being in Atlanta versus being in New Orleans, right there. But I don't know. I'm excited for it. This is a crowd. This is a fan base that I'm really pumped about. And we go ahead, James. What are you gonna say?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I respect the hell out of this LSU fan base.
Absolutely. And, speaking of LSU fans, I actually reached out to a good friend of mine, Paul, who has a very unique perspective on this rivalry.
Feinbaum?
Not Paul Feinbaum. This Paul Hood, my buddy, very much not Feinbaum, but he does know quite a bit about LSU and OU. So I asked him for a whole bunch of quotes. We'll be bringing up Paul quite a few times during this podcast, but where do we start here, Jameson? Let's just dive in. I'll just dive into a big thing to me because I feel like it's hard to know what LSU fans truly are like, or because there's some similarities, there's some differences. So I reached out to Paul, and first thing I asked him, because he has a unique read on both schools, because he has a degree from both schools. He got his undergrad at LSU and his graduate degree at OU. So I asked him how the fan bases were like and different. And he says primarily, he said, obviously the passion is evident in both fan bases. LSU fans love their sports and are about as knowledgeable as a fan base can be. I think he thinks that OU fans will find that to be true and that passion for their respective school. So, I mean, that's good at least. But I will say something he did bring up as well. LSU fans tailgate. As we all know, we've done our fair share of complaining about OU tailgates. Apparently in Baton Rouge, it's an all-day event, talking like 7 o'clock kickoffs, tailgates running at 8, 9 a.m. Parking's gone at like 10 a.m. It's incredible. And apparently LSU fans roll out, they travel like he said expect tents with purple and gold flags when LSU makes a trip to Norman. They'll be there. Food will be cooking. Bourbon will be flowing. He means no respect to OU fans at this point. It's just a different atmosphere than what's currently on OU's campus, with tailgating be on the lighter side of the SEC, in his opinion, as someone who's made most of the SEC stadiums.
I mean, that's completely fair. Our tailgating is super weak, and we all know that.
I will say, doing my part to make it a little bit better on my end, but that's that.
I'm doing my part.
I know I'm doing just little bitty part, do my part there. Other similarity brought up, LSU fans stand up like for most of the games, which I love. I wish we got more.
Good. Yeah. There's like I said, at the very beginning of this podcast, yes, I took a little jab at LSU fans. Standing, tailgating, believing in your team, yelling, doing what you need to do to be obnoxious. Utmost respect of almost any team in the SEC right here. So I'm super excited for this game. And what's a huge bummer, Bobby, and I feel like you share this with me, how unfortunate did they have to put this on Thanksgiving weekend? It just makes no sense to me that unless they're trying to brew this as a rivalry in the future, which they're not, I feel like they had much better options to put Missouri as a Thanksgiving game. It's a super bummer because I know a lot of people can't come to this game, including you, that were planning on doing that, or including me. Are you going? Did you end up
going? Yeah, we're gonna find our way to go.
Yeah, so I wanted to go from the long haul, and then this was like the weekend I couldn't. And I know a lot of people that aren't going because of the holiday and Thanksgiving week, and it's such a bummer for a lot of people that they had to do this. I know it had to be one of the games, and it ended up being this one, but still, just broke my heart.
It's heartbreaking because I think a lot of us did have that this weekend circled as probably Missouri. And, with all due respect to Missouri, and, we did, we haven't recorded it yet, but this is a little behind the scenes deal. We're actually doing this one first. But with all due respect to Missouri, that's one I feel like I could skip because I feel like OU and Missouri are going to play a lot. LSU, you don't know. And to me, that first experience in Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge is like so important that, I'm dragging it across the goal line to make it done, but I know that's not reasonable for most people. And the timing of it's just brutal. Again, biggest travel time of any in the United States too. So that makes things difficult, but I will say Baton Rouge, not an awful drive. Not an awful drive.
9.5, 10 hours, right? So that's very doable. That's right in that, you can just get it done in a day. And obviously, that's still a decent drive, right?
Well, but Jameson, it's 8 hours, 44 minutes from Norman.
Oh, well, Oklahoma City is what we've been using, right? I think it's 9.5.
I feel like whatever. Regardless, it's a bit of a haul.
Yeah, that's just mental mathing for me. But yeah, moral of the story, still's got a little time to it. There are flights for flight people, and they've got direct flights heading out on American and Delta that are still selling tickets. And so just be wary that they're a little overpriced right now for the direct, but you can always fly and check through, some connecting flight and get there as well. Compared to like the other SEC towns that we've talked about before in the past, you can fly right into Baton Rouge, and it's nice to have that airport close enough.
Yeah, not having to fly into New Orleans and drive is nice. This is probably one of the bigger airports in the SEC overall, like just being right there. So that's really great. It's probably Austin, obviously.
Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville and Austin are that upper tier best flight spot, but Baton Rouge is pretty good. Showing like about 359 on Delta for me, so out of OKC, so that's pretty good.
For the connecting flights, probably, right?
That's connecting, but it's out of you go to Houston. It's really not that hard, but honestly, that drive's not bad. It's actually a drive I've made. It was a halfway point when I was on my way to the. It was a halfway point of the halfway point when I was on my way to the Orange Bowl in 2018. So we stopped at LSU, checked out Chimes, which we'll get to a little bit later. It saw Mike the Tiger, really neat campus. I can actually vouch for this one. But obviously a little different when students are on campus and it's a game day.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
I was kind
go
of
ahead.
perusing through Google Maps, kind of like this campus looking around.
Oh yeah, no, it's really nice. Has a really good vibe to it. A lot of trees. Very like kind of gives you like that down south southerny vibe. It's really neat.
Mhm.
I will say tickets. This is probably the best ticket I've found so far. Currently on TickPick, $92 all
There it
in.
is. He's bringing back the tick pick. Good for you, Bobby.
Of course, Jameson. I didn't want to get roasted for using StubHub again. So StubHub, sorry about it.
No,
If you want
screw
me to not,
StubHub.
yeah, just sponsor us and we won't bash you anymore. But yeah, TickPick, looking pretty good to get in. Obviously, Tiger Stadium, enormous stadium, so you'll be up there in the clouds, but you'll be in the game. So that's not too bad.
Yeah. Let's kind of talk about Baton Rouge as a whole. Um, what do you know about the food scene down there for people that would be getting in like Friday night before? Like what did Paul tell you of like good places to go? I know like maybe you have some insight of where you've been for like bars, but like where would be a good place to eat dinner?
Right. So, yeah, Paul, when sending out this little flyer, first of all, gave me a lot of good recommendations. But a big one, especially for the older folks going into town, for him is a place called Rufino's. He said it's an incredible meal. You won't forget, on the nicer side, but you can't get that kind of food in Norman. So, I mean, for me, I think that sounds like like the perfect Friday spot to me. Um, I mean, a little bit of a nicer meal after a long
Italian.
drive. Let's take a gander here. I actually, here's how much I trust Paul. I didn't even like to take too much of a gander at this one.
It looks like it's an Italian restaurant and dress code right as you open it up.
Beautiful. Love that.
Which
Little
which I've
Italian
noticed
spot.
I've noticed a lot of places have dress codes on their website here in Baton Rouge. Very SEC of them. Very Southern.
I love that. I love very formal, very nice way to do that, Um, I mean, that's how it should be, it
Mhm.
should be a nice occasion. Apparently apparently their motto came from the guy's childhood with as like preparing graves, I guess. So
Oh,
I don't know, very interesting way to I guess lead very interesting path to like food, but it does look really good. I will say it looks
yeah.
like
I mean, like Italian dishes average about like $30-ish, some less, obviously. Eggplant parmesan for 19. So like, you say nice, but like to be honest with you, like you could get out of here pretty good.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's doable. It's not like a mahogany level, like you're gonna get completely destroyed, but like you can get out of here pretty solid. Some of the you you have like that seafood pasta situation going on. It's all unique because it's Italian, but it's not. There are dishes on here that I've never even thought about or seen before. Like got some duck fingers as an appetizer. That sounds excellent. You know,
Duck fingers.
it. I know. I can't even imagine. Uh, but you got the barbecue shrimp pasta. I don't know. It seems like a really good spot.
Just
One
close
place
your eyes and envision a duck with fingers.
that that's
But
it's an
it's
odd
also
odd.
just as funny with a chicken with fingers. But chicken have like little chicken feet with little tiny fingers on them.
Well, we already hear chicken fingers
But
enough. So.
I know that it isn't actually I'm eating a duck's fingers. I get that, people. I totally get that. I just closed my eyes and I just envisioned a duck with fingers and it made me laugh.
Fair enough. Uh, but I will say one spot I can personally vouch for is the Chimes, which I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely adored. That's where we ate on our stop through. And look, if you're in Louisiana and you don't get Cajun food, you're making a massive mistake. You and I both know that.
Mm-hmm.
The Chimes is a good place for that right there. There are a couple locations in Baton Rouge, one right off campus. Very nice, very solid place. Not too nice. It's a solid bar, lots of beer, lots of just really good food. This could be a solid Friday option. Could be a great Saturday option.
Yeah, I
So
think the Chime's east. So they have two locations. One that's like a 15-minute walk to the stadium. So that's a good bar scene. They have like, I think, a rooftop I actually was like researching into. That's a good for like, pre-gaming the game. So, but if you want to go get dinner there, maybe the Chime's east of campus will probably be a better like, luck for you trying to get in for food and whatnot if that's like a Friday night.
right. He also rolled with the Chimes on Highland, which is on the north gate of campus as well. So there are two Chimes on campus, I believe. And the one on
Yes,
the one on the north gate,
North Highland. Okay.
the one on Highland has a rooftop bar too.
Yeah, so that's the one next to the stadium. And then there's
Right.
one on Coursey Boulevard, and that's the one that's Chimes East, and that one will be farther away, but you might like not have to deal with the big crowd of like stadium and a lot of like people coming through, but still get the Chimes food.
Right. And I mean it's really good. And weirdly enough, it's actually the first time I've had gumbo in Louisiana was at Chimes. Somehow missed it on I believe 2 or so New Orleans trips. Out mainly because whenever you're going with your friends, everyone's just wanting to get the crappy Willie's Chicken Shack or
Popeyes
the
on Canal Street, baby.
Popeyes on Canal. Nobody's out here for a gourmand experience at the age of 21 or whatever it says on your ID that you're bringing with you, whether it be legit or not.
Mhm.
But yeah, in New Orleans though, it's yeah, it's pretty good. It was really good in Chimes at Chimes. I can vouch for the Chimes
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, for the younger students, he also mentioned Fred's. That's either a bar or a restaurant. And then
Oh, I think you're talking about Fred's in Tigerland.
I might be. Do
I've
you know
been
about Fred's in Tigerland, Jameson?
Oh, yes, I do because the majority of I was supposed to research the Missouri and the LSU before this, but then all of a sudden I got stuck into this Tigerland rabbit hole and I just researched Tigerland. It's just this subset of bars that's about like a mile and a half, 2 miles south of Tiger Stadium. But it seems like it's like the young, bar scene for like the youngins coming through. It just seems like there's a lot of craziness that happens in Tigerland. So if you want to see what the youthful bar of the college scene is, you go to Tigerland. There's a multiple different amounts of bars that are in there. You've got Mike's that's there, and then oh my gosh, I've already forgotten it. And Mike and Fred's. Then there's another one that got shut down in the past year for some article I already sent in our group text. I won't talk about that on the podcast right now. Some pretty horrible stuff. But some very hilarious things coming in. If you like go read Reddit threads, Bobby, some absolutely hilarious stuff talking about Fred's and all the other Tigerland bars. They have dress codes there that try to create a higher level of person to come in.
Oh,
And
geez.
it's essentially a horrible idea for people that it's an 18 plus bar. Like what are you expecting here? It's just all trash is
Yeah,
what it
I
is.
mean, yeah, 18 plus. You already know what that's going to be. You already know what bar that's going to be. It's going to be a madhouse.
Yes.
Uh,
I just think this stuff is so funny just reading it. But everyone talks about Chimes too as a bar before the games that we have to throw in Chimes into the bar conversation too.
I agree. Chimes should be in the bar conversation. While I did get food there and beer, it's definitely more of a bar spot. I will say the seafood move though. It's a place called Mike Anderson's that he brought up. They got Jameson, if you want it, they got it. They got the classic char grilled oysters.
There it
They have
is.
a whole they have the full section of oysters. So you're rolling good there. And really just think of whatever seafood you want, that's there. This is the
Yeah.
seafood spot right there if you want to really, really feast. And also, I believe they have a to-go menu as well, so you can kind of move fast if you're on the run, you don't have a lot of time to really sit down and go. This is a good option to get your seafood fix while also make it being nimble throughout your day.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you got to get seafood Cajun food while you're there. I appreciate the great Italian restaurant. But if you had to choose between one, just the thought of missing out on some good old Cajun food kind of hurts me on the insides. Can I go back and talking about Tigerland? Because I don't feel like I
Yeah,
talked about it
no,
enough.
you're right. Let's dive into Tigerland.
Yeah,
Is this like a
this is in
bar
rough.
district?
Yeah,
Like a
yes,
campus
it
corner?
is. Yes, and it's just a bunch of man's names that have it, but they call it Tigerland USA over there. I sent this message in our group text before this, but I just think it's hilarious. We unfortunately had just missed Mike's 17th annual bikini party last week. They had
Oh no.
$1,000 in cash prizes. See, this is the thing that we missed. Maybe it might come around by the winter time. You never know. They might do another bikini party again. But this is the kind of things you're expecting from Tigerland bars.
Wow.
8 to
I mean,
10. They had an 8 to 10 free drinks. They had what? They
what
had
do you
a
mean?
special deal where they did free drinks for 2 hours?
How could that
What?
possibly be profitable for Mike's
I don't know.
Tigerland?
I have
What?
no idea. Isn't there an Always Sunny episode where they give like free bucks out, to everyone?
The Patty's
To like the
dollars,
Dave
yeah.
and Buster's? Yeah, it's essentially like this. Oh, and there's another bar that I have found that I was going through the Reddit threads and I'm just laughing at all of these things. I don't think this is in Tigerland, but there's a bar called Revelries and they have an age range of you have to be 21 or older to get in if you're a male, but if you're a female, you could be 18.
Oh no. Oh,
Like, what's going on in Baton Rouge? There's all
their
these bar
reputation.
owners are just out of pocket right now. Like, I wonder what this mic. I need to get you continue to talk. I'm going to try to find a picture of this mic.
Oh my god. Well, the reputation precedes themselves as being an incredible college town. Everything I'm hearing about this is insane and makes me wish I was not, about to turn 30. I'll still be in my 20s by the time this is there, but I won't be able to. You can't burn it down with them. But man, I gotta say, if you're an OU student, you gotta you gotta ditch the family.
Go to Tigerland.
Go to Tigerland.
Tigerland.
Ditch. You'll have other Thanksgivings. Ditch everyone. Just dive into Tigerland. Cause some mischief.
Tigerland USA, baby.
Oh my god, it's incredible. That is incredible.
Oh my god. Anything else you got in terms of like bar scene, food, whatnot, for like pregame?
So believe it or not, that's kind of what I got for the
Mhm.
bar scene.
Mhm.
I do have a lot about tailgating though.
Please,
I
let's
got
talk.
a lot about tailgating. So essentially I just asked him, look, as an OU fan, what's the right way to navigate it? He says, and I quote, "That's simple. Just make the trip. Contrary to popular belief, in my opinion, LSU fans are incredibly welcoming when it comes to tailgating. As he said in a previous answer, and I'll post the full transcript later, an LSU football game is a family event. OU fans should get to campus, walk around, and experience it. The odds are high that you'll be offered food and drink by complete strangers welcoming you to campus. Take it. It'll likely knock your socks off good. You'll make friends. I believe OU fans will enjoy the experience, and frankly, then start asking valid questions about why Norman is not like that on game day." And he goes on and says he's been to a lot of the hallowed tailgate grounds, and he says this is the best out of Oxford, Starkville, Auburn, Tuscaloosa, Athens, Fayetteville, all of it. He says Athens is the best college town, but LSU is the best tailgate. Many may push back and talk about the Grove, which is valid, and a lot of people in our comments on that Oxford video, thank you for commenting. They might disagree with him. He doesn't believe the Grove is tailgating; it's its own thing, and OU fans should experience this form of tailgating. So, to me, it sounds like LSU's version of tailgating is the best pure tailgate, which I am very intrigued about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then we talked about it in past pods. Like a lot of this going down, if you're going into enemy territory, most people should not have much animosity towards you because we're brand new. We're the new kid in school. Obviously, they may crack jokes at you as the new kid in school, but most people don't have any kind of built up anger to us. A lot of these places, got some good Southern charm to them, and they will open you, take you in with open arms for the most part. So be bold, go in, make some new friends.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And that's something that I've gotten a lot from our previous videos, comments, is people just being like, yeah, just be friendly and you'll get invited to the tailgate, which I love. So if the YouTube comments are united on something, you usually that might be right. Sometimes it's not. But We'll see. I also did ask how to avoid being tiger bait, which is a common thing they do.
But I want to be
And
tiger bait.
so here's what I asked him how to avoid being tiger bait. He said he personally believes there's some myths that have gotten out of hand. Will some folks chant tiger bait at you while you stroll campus? Yes, there's a high chance of that. Will Tiger Stadium execute its well-known "You Suck" chant at OU? Yes, at some point that'll happen. Will the band play neck? The LSU student section chant that OU should, well, suck that tiger blank, bitch. And at some point,
you got it. You blanket, and then you just go ahead and say bitch. You should have just went. You should have
I
just
feel like
said
you could. I feel like you could get away with that. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a line. It's a line. But yeah, at some point that'll happen, and they might bother some folks. But it is just a part of being in the SEC, and I frankly agree.
Yep.
I agree. I want that. I want that vibe. That's part of the reason why I like going. Little part of the reason why I like going to Texas Tech at times, but not as much. At least LSU has a reason to be like rowdy.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And like what I said at the beginning of this podcast, I want chirping. I want to be tiger bait. This is why we go to these games. We want to see the environment. Being in enemy territory, even if you lose, is such, an exhilarating process that, it's nice whenever people are nice to you. It is. But at the same time, I want people very mean to me. I don't want it to be like where I'm like complete physical altercation, but some good verbal altercation I love. I love that back and forth.
You want to feel the pressure of the game. It helps.
Yes.
Because it helps if you win, if you come out of it, it's just the best feeling ever.
Yeah. Like whenever Georgia fans barked in my face at the Rose Bowl, I loved that. It just brought this like stunning enjoyment. I mean, because first I'm like, what the heck just happened? But I'm like, I just got barked at, and that is hilarious. Like I wanted people to yell tiger bait at me.
That's great. That's great. He also provided his full schedule of like a proper game day. I'll just go ahead and rattle it off. He arrives on campus at 8 a.m., parks around the north side of campus. He's at Chimes at 9 when the rooftop bar opens. This is, keep in mind, for a night game. I love this. It makes me so happy. He sits upstairs with a lot of friends, starts drinking something called Parish Cane Break on draft. Has a couple. You have a Bloody Mary, whatnot. Stay there till 11. Then you pivot to campus, start walking around. Hanging out at the tailgates, all of that. Do that until 4 p.m. and then move your way to the stadium. And at that point, you soak up LSU's Tiger Walk on North Stadium Drive, which is like the marching band and team making their way to the stadium. We've seen a couple of these walk situations. This seems like a pretty cool deal. And I will say LSU's band, very famous, very, very, very good. So that sounds pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great progression. And then honestly, getting to the stadium early, did he say anything like, is there like a must see pre-games of like when we should get into the stadium? Because this is one of those times, Bobby, right, where they only release the schedule to maybe be a 2:30, 3:30 or a 5 to 7, I think. Isn't that right on the timing of this game?
This is, I believe, a flex. Yeah. So this could be, and I anticipate it being a Saturday night in Death Valley,
Yes.
We'll see how it goes. There are some big games there too. Texas A&M is that day as well. So we'll see where it ends up. I think a lot of that will have to be dependent on how good OU and LSU are. But I would be shocked if this one was not a Saturday night game. Most games at LSU are Saturday night. So I could see this being Saturday night in Death Valley. But in terms of things you got to see, he actually didn't mention it, but in my own research, there's something I personally want to see really bad. So I'm planning on getting to the stadium around 45 minutes before kickoff because I want to be in my seat for Colin Baton Rouge before the game.
Yeah.
That is, so they played again at the fourth quarter, but just to set it off a proper way, with, I love Garth Brooks too. So that song, I mean, that's college football for you right there. Frankly, an underrated college football tradition, if you ask me. You bring up the inner Sandmans to jump around. Calling Baton Rouge is as perfect as it gets. I want to be there for that.
Yeah, so that's, I'm guessing you say that's like around like 30 minutes before kickoff. Is that what you're saying?
So I'm aiming at 45. Bands
Mhm.
usually go on about 30 before.
Yeah.
And you want to see the Tiger Band as well,
Mhm.
That's one of the bands you don't want to miss.
Yeah, let us
Just
know in the comments if y'all know this, LSU fans.
yeah, for sure. Because I've just heard that, once they hit that 4-note dun 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 dun, like everything goes
Mhm.
nuts. So I want to be there for that. As a
Yeah,
big band guy, I want to be there for that.
of course.
And he did say something though that's very notable. If you're driving, you got to stick around after the game because they have something he refers to as contraflow, and it is apparently the worst traffic you will ever deal with. So just hanging out on campus for an hour or two after the game to let traffic clear out is the move. It's not worth the fight. And I'm all for that. That's what I do anyways, like for a normal game. But for a game where traffic is that bad, go do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. This game's going to be kind of fun, Bobby. Just the football itself, not just like the atmosphere. Last game of the season before moving into postseason play for us. And, this will be a very, very important game because, some people are plus and minus where OU is going to be, plus or minus what LSU is going to be. But these are borderline teams, that could go a couple games either way and be in the playoff conversation versus be out of the playoff conversation. So I think this will have big time implications, whether it's OU trying to get into the playoffs or LSU or both or neither.
I'm gonna go.
I think it's going to be pretty big time.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I think one of these teams will have playoff implications in this game. I
I
think
think
one of
that's a
them.
very, very soft take. Very soft take.
Yeah. So maybe. Yeah. I guess not. I guess it is, and especially because really, I think either of these teams get in with 3 losses.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just see this game being absolutely pivotal for both OU and LSU, and it's exactly that environment you want. I think it's an interesting matchup. I'm personally not as high on Nussmeier and LSU as a
No,
whole
but they've got other
as some
people.
are. The
It's
defense is
not
good.
it's not Nussmeier. It's that they've got the auxiliary pieces around them, like Kyron Lacey and Mason Taylor for them. Kyron Lacey, the wide receiver, Mason Taylor tight end. Those are 2 of the best wide receiver. That's probably I'd say that's the best wide receiver tight end combo behind Ole Miss's probably Trey Harris and was it I forget their tight end's name, like Prescorn, something like that. Very, very top end talent at the wide receiver and tight end room that should help Nussmeier. And then they've got one of the best left tackles in all of the nation, in Campbell out there. So, they've got the pieces around them, even though they lost a lot in Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors last year at the wide receiver position. They will always replenish, and they've still got really good pieces.
Yeah, no, I mean you can never count LSU out. And I think Brian Kelly is a pretty solid hire. And I'm just intrigued to see where they go. I'm intrigued to see just how well they can reload there. Because we've seen it where sometimes they don't, like we've seen down years with LSU where, they look good, kind of fall apart the next year. They're up and down. I'm not sure what LSU team will be getting. But I will say it's impossible to look at this game and not kind of chalk it up as one of the games that OU will probably lose, given the environment, given the quality of opponent. Like it just feels it feels as tough of a road game as OU has ever had. Like I think it might be
Yeah.
the toughest I've ever seen. You put it up there with
what would you think with Ohio State?
yeah, but I feel like with Ohio State, even like you have that element of it's the start of the season, everyone's fresh. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little different once you've gone through a full grind of an SEC
For sure.
schedule and you're at the end. Also, like LSU plays Vanderbilt the week before we play Alabama, so that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Our
but
offensive line is going to be beat up. And I worry so much about our offensive line this season, Bobby. And that's going to be the bane of our existence. And I think the big rate limiting step if we're going to succeed as a team this season. And they've got the best pass rusher in the SEC in Harold Perkins. That is going to be a handful. Last season, I feel like they experimented a lot with him in terms of like where they were going to line him up. You saw how well he did rushing the passer as a true freshman. They thought he was going to make a big jump from his 7.5 sacks as a true freshman. Only had 5.5 because they were playing him more on the inside. And I really didn't like the way that they weren't just letting him just be like an elite pass rusher. But he started to come into his form as the season came on. That dude has extreme talent. And as a guy that Jake Sexton, Jake Taylor, whoever is going to be on the outside, left, right, is going to have a lot of issues with. And I don't know if we're going to have to go, there's a true argument, Bobby, that he would be a better, threat against the offensive line than James Pierce for Tennessee. Even though James Pierce is, some people say, is going to be the number 1 overall pick of the NFL draft. Like, this guy is that, nasty on the edge, skinny, fast, pure athlete.
Yeah. I mean, Harold Perkins is as fearsome as an athlete as it comes. And honestly, you could argue like the only one who could stop Harold Perkins last year was the coaching staff, for putting him in, weird spots and dropping him into coverage and not just letting him rip, which is what he's best at. So, I mean, yeah, he is going to be among the toughest, best players we face this season in year 1 of the SEC, to say the least.
Yeah, it's crazy just to look. I just pulled up the all SEC preseason, all SEC teams, and like of how many of these guys, like that Oklahoma has to play. Like, Walter Nolan of Ole Miss, transfer from Texas A&M, like former number 1 overall recruit, having to go up against him and James Pierce and Harold Perkins. Like, this is something you don't get used to in Big 12 and the SEC. This is just a single season. You have to go against these guys' first-round draft pick defensive lines every other week.
Yeah. Bill Bedenbaugh has his work cut out for him, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else on the game before we kind of move on to series history?
No, I really think what it comes down to is winning in the trenches. I think this is how Oklahoma is going to win this game. All of last season, Oklahoma really struggled with their run game in establishing it, and Gavin Sawchuk kind of came on at the end. I'm not trying to get a full-on preview of a game that's in November whenever we're talking about it in July, but LSU, from reading the tea leaves in this offseason, obviously we followed a lot in terms of a similar pathway with us, Dominic Williams and others. LSU was very desperate for interior defensive line. They lost, I think, 3 of their interior defensive linemen to the draft or graduation last year, and it's a huge position of need. If we can win in the trenches in this game, that's our best chance because LSU is going to have the environment, but if we can establish the run, that is a way to quiet the crowd and kind of go at their weakness.
You've been playing that NCAA or college football 25. You know how to get the stadium meter down. You know how to get those lines looking straight again. You gotta run the damn ball.
Well, we just run an inside zone, and then I'll hit them with the RPO with the 3 wide receivers set on the outside. If I see the safety cheating down, it's all over, baby.
Yeah, you know what's up. That's funny. All right, let's move on to the history. So OU and LSU don't have a deep history, but they have a rich one, I feel like. They've only played 3 games, but all 3 were enormous. So let's start out with the one that we don't remember or don't know, because you and I lived through the other 2.
Yeah.
The 1950 Sugar Bowl is the first meeting.
I didn't do
was undefeated.
I was like, what, Bobby's going to say some crazy year. Like, it's like the one we didn't live through. And I knew it was going to be something way in the past.
Jameson, I'm so excited to tell you this story. You're gonna love it. So this was Bud Wilkinson's team, undefeated at the time. OU was ranked number 2, LSU number 9. Big Sugar Bowl game in New Orleans, and it was controversial though because it was found that former LSU player Piggy Barnes filmed OU's practice. He was spying. Piggy Barnes was spying on OU and was caught.
I don't mean to be like a young child, but like, what the hell are you filming this on in 1950?
Yeah, He had film. Old Piggy Barnes out here hiding in the bushes. They caught him
We
back at
caught
Tulane
him.
Stadium. They caught Piggy Barnes.
Oh,
And
good. Please tell me they have data on what they did to Piggy.
I I really should have delved into what they did to Piggy. I think they might have. Surely they didn't rough him up. I don't know. I don't know what the proper rules were for that. But whatever intel he got didn't matter. OU won 35-0 to cap off an
Nice.
11-0 season. Surprisingly, not a national championship, despite going undefeated. But yeah, hypothetically, if we were a lesser team from a lesser athletic program, we would claim that, but we don't. We don't make up fake titles. Unfortunately, a very real title OU and LSU played for, the 2003 Sugar Bowl, fresh off a humiliating Big 12 championship game. OU goes in, loses a tight one, 21-14. To this day, Jason White overthrowing Kejuan Jones will haunt OU fans' memories forever. And yeah, Jameson, do you remember this one? We were both really, really young. This was probably my first real big OU heartbreak.
Yeah, I don't know because it's so hard. Like these big events in OU history, you know them, you know the events. How much is my memory actually flashbulb memory from hearing the stories over and over about like my dad and other people around me? But like I feel like I remember it. I feel like I remember the passion that came from this and the hatred towards LSU. But in reality, I was 7 years old, or I guess I would have been 6. So that's like, pretty damn young. That's like, tailing out of yeah. So in all honesty, I probably don't remember too much of it other than flashbulbing.
I remember watching the game, but like at that point I was 7 and had the attention span of a small squirrel. So, I was paying attention to it, but I wasn't like locked in on the X's and O's or anything. I definitely knew we lost and remember being nervous about it. And being, I don't know. I remember being upset about it. And then the next year, that was like my first year being really locked in, was 2004. The infamous finish the job season where everyone had the red Lance Armstrong wristbands, and OU made that run to the Orange Bowl and did not finish the job. But that LSU year, very, very much in my mind, first national championship I've ever seen OU lose. So, and probably, I got to ask Jameson, was this the closest one like that OU had to winning?
Yeah. Yeah. People can say the what ifs of like maybe, the year we lost to Georgia in the Rose Bowl of like a what if, but that was a semifinal game. Like it's a different beast that we're going into now of like playoffs, to where whenever you were making the BCS national championship and you have a game as close as that, you only argument you talk about like 2009, 2008 Florida. And in all honesty, Florida kind of controlled the narrative of the game. There's a couple of things that people can go back and talk about, like, oh, this, what, that, there was, and I think I just struck a chord with Bobby, with saying Florida controlled the narrative, but there are a lot of things that we say should have, but I feel like LSU is probably of a closer call.
We had the ball on the 1 yard line twice and got no points out of it.
Yep.
They had Percy Harvin hurt and he played. We had DeMarco Murray hurt. He couldn't play. That was the game. It's tricky because it was like on the field, LSU was closer, but OU wise, I feel like that was a better team that got just unfortunate circumstances.
We got to jump past. It's as simple as that. We got to jump past.
Yeah. Got jump past. God, I will never. That's for the or for the Florida pod, I'm sure. But man, that was as heartbreaking a moment as I can remember in sports, because you kind of knew it was happening.
When he turned that right in your stomach.
It's a slow enough play to process that when he pulled back like that, he's doing the jump and immediately get out of that stadium. But enough about Florida. And then obviously the other one, 2019. You and I don't need to dive deep into that one. It's the Burrow game.
I've got bad memories from that game. Man, we were there. We were both there.
We were both there. Yeah. We were both there. I'll never forget after that CeeDee Lamb pass, or that really big CeeDee Lamb. It was Hurts to CeeDee Lamb. OU goes up 7-0. I'm all excited. I'm fired up. Had a couple drinks, a little bit of courage in me. I yell, "You thought it was gonna be easy, didn't you?" It aged like milk. This one's interesting because we were podcasting then, and I'll never forget. Ty and I came back after our break from this game's preview to the game. I was like, "Ty, anything you want to say about LSU?" And he said, "Nope." And I said, "Okay, cool." And we started the offseason.
That game I will never forget. And for LSU fans, this probably was a good memory for you, but very bad for me, of how many touchdowns LSU kept getting over and over. Every single time LSU got a touchdown, do you remember what they would do?
The Atlanta Falcons horn thing.
Yes.
Right?
And oh my God, they're like, I'm like, oh my God. Every time I heard that, I just wanted to like take something and just smash it. I was like so irritated and so defeated. It was miserable, and just that sound. I don't think I'm ever gonna forget that. There's some people say like, smell is your strongest sense of sound. Like my strongest sense. I mean, not sound. But that sticks with me way more than smell. That sound right there will take me right back. It's almost up there with the Whedon Boys of TCU. Every time I hear the Whedon Boys, it's very similar to that.
They also have a horn like that
I
too.
know.
The frog
They
horn.
do have
The Whedon Boys. Yeah, no, that immediately flashed me back to 2014 and Trevon Boykin.
There you go. Exactly.
But, yeah, that LSU game, OU was horribly outmatched, and the result happened. Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, so that's our history with LSU, and I feel like it's interesting for the final question. So we've been doing the beef meter and been looking at rivalry here, and with OU and LSU meeting in the Thanksgiving weekend slot, rivalry week, are there foundations for legitimate rivalry here, Jameson? I think OU fans on one end for sure, right? Like OU fans do not like LSU fans.
But who likes LSU fans? Is this like a national thing where everyone can come together and be like, LSU fans are already well known to be like a common enemy?
See, I don't know if that's true though, because I feel like there's a general like kind of like towards LSU fans if you don't deal with them. Like you've seen it.
Well, was that just because of like the Go Tigers with Ed O, and like everyone thought he was hilarious, and so they became a likable team. And then obviously like the Gritty with Justin Jefferson, and then Joe Burrow did a number of things of like them to be like a casual fans likable team. But I'm talking about like hardcore fans of other schools can come together and not like LSU. Right. This is not like liking the Golden State Warriors as a little kid and also liking the LSU football team when they had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
I mean, I think it's like, I think it's tinted because we have suffered at their hands. I think there are some fan bases that are like, oh yeah, they're delightful, and then they run into them and you don't like them, just because they are a fun team, because they're not. They exist in this very weird plane where they've won championships. They've won a lot of championships, since 2000, but they do it sporadically. Like sometimes they're horrible, and then sometimes they just show up out of nowhere and they're great. And they have these fun players.
Best way to win? Like that's almost like the best way to be as a program.
It would be a lot more fun than just being Alabama and every year you expect to murder everyone. And then, if you don't, it's a disaster. And if you do, well, that was just what we were supposed to do.
The range of emotions as a sports fan is what makes it so great. That's why I'm so envious of LSU. Like you want that, the low of the lows and then the rebound to the high of the highs.
I think that has to be fun, is not having that sustained success where it is sporadic and you don't know what's going to happen. And, you don't, I think you learn to not take it for granted, because you have that moment and then Nick Saban leaves, or you have that moment and then Les Miles is just who Les Miles has always been, who is overrated and all that. And then Coach O, you have that moment and then he just stops caring about coaching anymore because he got his extension and, wants to be Coach O. So I imagine as an LSU fan,
I'm sure he was at Tigerland a lot. Let's be honest. I can almost guarantee you, I would put a lot of money that he's been to Tigerland on multiple occasions.
He's definitely been. There's no way he didn't pop into Tigerland a time or two like that. He might be one of the coolest head coaches we've had in a while. Just when you think about just a weird cult of personality dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see why there is an appeal for overall people, but for me, I just could never deal with it. It was like, some people might be drinking the Kool-Aid. For me, it's like drinking cough syrup, not in like the fun.
Drinking cough syrup. Bobby
not
sipping
in the scissor way. No, it was awful. It was not fun. But I asked Paul actually.
Not a good analogy.
No, it was not. It was not. Don't do that, kids. So I asked Paul, and he said, yes, absolutely, yes. In my opinion, OU and LSU is a perfect rivalry, which may not be good for my marriage, as he is married to an OU grad. The history between the schools in the last 21 years is evident, with a couple of big games that LSU has been on the good side of. When I talk to OU fans about LSU, many want to win. I think OU will get that win. Could be this year, and this rivalry is off and running. You'll find that the conference office is very smart, and I do not think it is a coincidence that OU LSU is scheduled during a rivalry week this year. As a perfect foundation for a late in the season rivalry with meaningful football being played. So everyone's on board here with the beef, or with a rivalry. Hopefully it gets started. Where are we putting the beef meter at right now between the two sides?
I put a
close out
6.
the pod?
I think a 6, and that's obviously no one likes these average middle of the road, but let me explain it. Because there's a component of the beef where it's like, if you're talking to me about fan bases you dislike in college football as an Oklahoma fan, people will easily say the orange of Texas and Oklahoma State because that's, a rivalry, so you understand that. If you're talking about the beef, Texas is like a 9.5. Some people would say 10. That is the pinnacle of 10.
I think it's a 10.
Yeah. I asked me to say nice things about Texas. I can't. So I guess that just puts it at 10. Oklahoma State, I can say some nice things about Oklahoma State here and there. But for the most part, don't even hit me with that, Bobby. You've got nothing to say. But there's a lot of beef there. There's a significant amount of beef. So I'd say like 8.5, 9 for Oklahoma State. For LSU, I've got a lot of nice things to say about them. I have a certain respect for their game, because whenever you have beef, even the respect goes out the window. The respect is gone. I have respect for LSU a lot, but at the same time, I hate their guts. So I think that puts them right in the middle of the pack of I hate them a lot, but at the same time, I respect their game.
It's tricky to do beef with teams that you don't play all the time. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think OU and LSU, this is probably I might go as far as saying a 7 on the OU end. LSU, I probably lower because we haven't done anything to LSU. The only bad thing any OU fan has ever done to an LSU fan was me at Pat O'Brien's, but we don't need to discuss that. It was an accident. I did not see that table there.
Bobby knocked a whole table full of hurricanes and spilled all of them. The whole bar of Pat O'Brien's booed him. Our friend
including
group,
our table.
We had no idea who we were booing at, but we came in on the boo. And what do you know? It was Bobby. Bobby was the one there.
The story I had heard is that y'all looked at each other because I had gotten up because we requested Boomer Sooner. The guy boos it, and the piano lady calls me over. So you couldn't see me. I was out of frame. Everyone starts booing. Everyone looks around and goes, "That has to be Bobby, right?" Pause. Then yes. Boo. Yeah.
We didn't know for sure it was Bobby, but we came in on the boo.
That's fair.
That's very much the story.
If it was you, I would have done the same. But
yes.
Yeah. But no, great times at Pato's. Love that bar. So yeah, but that's beside the point. Essentially, LSU has no reason to beef with OU. But I would say this. I think out of
a Piggy, let's not forget about the tales of Piggy.
Piggy Barnes.
What did we do to Piggy?
We need to look this up. I need to call Barry Trammell and ask him if he knows what happened to Piggy Barnes. No, outside of, I don't think there are any LSU fans who are shaking their fist at Piggy Barnes upset about that loss. But no, I think out of the I would say non-conference, non-Big 12 teams, essentially, or Texas now, this is as beefy as it gets. Like any team we haven't had a conference with, it's LSU and it's USC in terms of the despised programs outside of old conference foes, I would say.
Yeah.
So this will be a good one.
Next would be like Florida below that. And just the trend is these are teams that hurt us. We
got Florida back though. We got Florida back kind of in the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl. And hey, they didn't even care about that game, Bobby, so it doesn't matter. But we're not going to talk about Florida anymore this spot. I'm going to cut it off way earlier.
This is our way of insulting the LSU fans. We just bring up Florida a lot. But, all right,
every single pod, every single one of these that we do. If you're listening, you're an SEC fan, you are an LSU fan. You're like, these guys are just coming in and just insulting us, and they are way too confident. Great. I'm very happy. Well, let me tell you something. I mean, a lot of people think that on our other videos. Go listen to our other videos. Tell us if you think that we're being too confident, or if we're too unrealistic, or we said something absolutely bogus. Talk with us in the comments. We'll talk back. I love the conversation.
Oh yeah, we love getting in there, and if there's anything we missed, let us know. We'd love to hear your recommendations. We've already gotten some really good recommendations on our previous videos,
and it's been very helpful for us to go into the games to tell our friends and to really tailor our trip to that. So we really appreciate everyone who's been commenting on this.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, these visitor guides, they're a resource for OU fans, but not really, kind of because of us, because we did some research, but the real advantage is in the comment section. So make sure to scroll through that as well. And hey, again, LSU fans, SEC fans, stick around. We'll be talking about your games quite a bit this season, not just on game week for the Sooners, but also just weekly as your marquee matchups come up on the weekend spread. So, and we got that SEC preview coming up soon. So that'll be a fun one. That'll be an interesting gauge to see how confident or not confident we are. But, all right, Jameson, that's all we have for this episode of the Sooner Fans Visitor Guide to the SEC. If you haven't seen the other ones, they're available now. Give them a check out in that playlist. Tune into them. They're all good stuff. So yeah. But until next time, hope you all have a good one, and Boomer Sooner, everybody.